In the heart of Nairobi, there's an old hotel with a single room no one dares to book anymore. At first, it looked like any other modest guest room, a clean bed, plain curtains, a Bible on the nightstand. But over the years, it became notorious for one chilling reason. Every guest who stayed in that room was found dead by morning. The causes were always inconclusive, no signs of violence, no medical explanation, just lifeless bodies lying peacefully in bed. Some guests were found with expressions of horror frozen on their faces. Others looked as if they had simply drifted away into sleep, never to return. At first, management chalked it up to coincidence. But as the body count grew, rumors spread. Some said the room was cursed, haunted by the spirit of a woman who had once died there tragically. Others claimed the furniture itself had been imported from a colonial asylum, carrying the energy of madness and death. And a few whispered about a ritual gone wrong, leaving the room forever tainted. The hotel eventually stopped renting the room. But the legend lives on, and locals insist that sometimes, if you walk past at night, you hear whispers behind the locked door, as if the room itself is calling for its next victim. The deaths began quietly. A businessman from Mombasa was found dead, lying on his back, eyes wide open, no sign of illness. Weeks later, a tourist from Europe checked in, healthy and smiling, only to be discovered lifeless the next morning. By the third incident, whispers began among the staff. They nicknamed it the room that eats people. At first, management tried to ignore it. The hotel was old but profitable, and bad press could ruin them. But the pattern was undeniable, only guests who stayed in that room died. Some unsettling details emerged. Guests reported feeling a heavy presence as soon as they entered. Lights flickered, and the air seemed unnaturally cold no matter the season. More disturbingly, several visitors mentioned hearing faint whispers in a language they couldn't understand while trying to fall asleep. One night, a journalist decided to investigate. He booked the room under a fake name, determined to expose the myth. At 2:47 a.m., other guests in the hotel heard banging and frantic screams coming from the locked room. When staff forced the door open minutes later, the journalist was found dead. His notebook lay beside him, open to a final, chilling entry: "It's not the room. It's what's inside the mirror." That detail changed everything. Now suspicion shifted to the antique mirror bolted above the desk, a tall, ornate relic rumored to date back to colonial times. Guests who glanced at it claimed to see fleeting shadows or faces that weren't their own. Some even insisted the mirror seemed to breathe, fogging faintly as if alive. By the time the hotel sealed the room permanently, more than a dozen unexplained deaths had occurred. Yet locals say the mirror is still inside, covered, but waiting. And sometimes, when the cleaning staff pass the hallway at night, they swear they hear a voice, soft but urgent, calling them to look. As rumors swirled, a group of local historians and elders began digging into the hotel's past. What they uncovered was more disturbing than anyone imagined. The hotel had been built in the 1920s during the colonial era, and the infamous room once belonged to a British officer known for his cruelty. He was said to have conducted strange rituals in that very room, obsessing over immortality and communication with spirits. The mirror, the same one bolted to the wall today, was imported from Europe and used during his ceremonies. Witnesses claimed he would sit for hours before it, chanting in an unknown language, as if waiting for something to answer back. When he died under mysterious circumstances, some say in his sleep, others claim he was dragged into the mirror itself. The room was sealed for decades before being reopened as part of the hotel. But the deaths didn't stop. If anything, they grew worse. Investigators who dared to study the mirror noticed disturbing patterns. Scratches appeared on the glass overnight, resembling claw marks. Visitors described feeling pulled toward their reflections, as if the mirror were a doorway hungry for souls. When photographs were taken, the images showed faces pressed against the inside of the glass, mouths open in silent screams. The chilling theory was this: the mirror wasn't cursed, it was a prison. Every soul who died in that room wasn't living, they were being trapped inside the mirror, adding to the countless restless figures glimpsed within. The journalist's final note, "It's not the room. It's what's inside the mirror," now made perfect sense. The room wasn't haunted in the traditional sense. It was a feeding ground, with the mirror as its anchor. Anyone who slept there became part of its eternal collection. By the time management finally locked the room for good, whispers spread that it was already too late. Covering the mirror might hide it, but nothing could stop its hunger. And to this day, staff insist that if you walk down that hallway at night, you feel a chill. Sometimes, you hear faint knocking from the other side of the door. They say every story has two sides, the one that people whisper, and the one that the land itself remembers. For decades, travelers through Nairobi carried only fragments of the tale. A cursed hotel. A mirror that swallows life. A room locked and hidden from sight. But when the truth was pieced together, it revealed a story far more terrifying than rumor. 1. The Forgotten Officer. Long before the hotel was a hotel, the land was the site of a colonial outpost. The officer who built the structure was obsessed with power, not just political or military control, but the kind of power that could defy nature itself. He was said to dabble in ancient texts, stolen artifacts, and forbidden rites. Where others saw war and land, he saw the promise of eternity. And in the heart of his experiments stood a mirror. Not ordinary glass, but a relic brought from Europe, one with a reputation for reflecting more than faces. Witnesses record him sitting before it, chanting in the dead of night, offering blood sacrifices of animals, and some whispered, of people. When he finally died, he did not die peacefully. Servants described screams so loud they echoed across the compound. When they broke down the door, they found him slumped against the mirror, eyes wide open, as if staring into something no living man should ever see. But here is the detail that made even the bravest fall silent. In the reflection, his body was missing. Only his face stared back, pressed against the glass. 2. The Death Room. Years later, the compound was converted into a colonial guest house, then into a hotel. The cursed mirror was never removed. Guests who stayed in that room would sleep and never wake. Doctors wrote it off as heart failure, strokes, natural causes. But witnesses began noticing strange consistencies. The bodies were always found staring at the mirror, their faces twisted in terror. On the nights before their deaths, neighbors heard whispers seeping through the walls, as if multiple voices were trapped inside the glass. Hotel staff complained of feeling drained, sick, or dizzy if they lingered too long inside. Some guests survived a single night but fled immediately. One woman claimed she woke at 3 a.m. to find her reflection smiling back at her while her real face remained still. Another swore she saw dozens of pale hands pressing against the inside of the glass, reaching for her. And then, the journalist. He spent weeks researching, connecting the dots, speaking to staff. On his last night alive, he wrote his final chilling words. "It's not the room. It's what's inside the mirror." 3. The mirror's hunger. By now, the truth had become clear. The officer had not merely died, he had bound his soul into the mirror. And every death that followed fed him, strengthened him, and trapped new souls within his prison. The mirror was not cursed. It was a living, breathing thing, a collector of spirits. Imagine it. Every guest who ever died in that room, still there, staring out. Thousands of silent faces, pressed behind the glass, pounding to escape. That is why people felt sick. Why they heard voices. Why reflections behaved like something other. The mirror was not showing reality, it was showing the cage of the damned. 4. The seal. When management finally realized the danger, they did not throw away the mirror. They feared breaking it would release everything trapped inside. Instead, they sealed the door, bolted it shut, and swore never to speak of it again. But silence does not erase truth. And sometimes, truth leaks. Staff who patrol the hallway at night still hear faint knocks. Some say they hear muffled screams. Others feel a sudden, biting cold near the door, as though dozens of unseen hands press against it from the other side. Even today, if you ask discreetly, some workers will warn you, don't walk past that room after midnight. And whatever you do, don't look into the mirror. 5. The final question. So now, the legend stands as a warning, whispered among locals, shared among the brave, feared by those who know its truth. If you ever find yourself in Nairobi, and you stumble upon a hotel with a locked door at the end of the hall, would you dare peek inside? Would you dare stand before the mirror? Because if you do, remember this. You might not just see yourself. You might see the countless others who never woke up, still waiting, still pressing, still screaming behind the glass. And if they see you, perhaps they will not let you leave. Some mirrors reflect the world. Others, keep it.